Watch the Gauge, welcome back. Today I'm going to be working on stories 20 through 22 of my 2022 December daily album. Wow, that's a mouthful. So a couple of things. I already have some stuff prepped, ready to go. I'll be doing for story 20 about doing drive up and what's on our list from Target. This is a photo I shot in our car. We have 360-degree cameras, and so as soon as we pulled in, I thought, that's kind of cool and funny. So that's how that one's going to come together. 21 is using the tags for the Would You Rather, and those were part of the December daily prep day, which was $5. Lots of great content, lots of great downloads, and that's where this list came from. So I need to fill mine out, Ben needs to fill his out, and then I have a couple photos of us, each with Henry, so to adhere that with some ribbons. And then story 21, journaling already done. Ben did the journaling for this one. It's about him working from home. And so I think I'm going to use one of those large plastic titles, and maybe I'll add like a subheading or something with one of these vellum phrases. So that's kind of my plan. I'm going to go ahead and get started and dive in.
All right, my friends, jumping in here, the first step I'm going to be doing is trimming out all my photos. So I'm going to be jumping around from stories 20 to 21 to 22, but just using my paper trimmer to trim all these photos out. The one on the left and the one on the right are both outside the page protector, sized 11 by 8.25, and printed here at home with my Epson XP 15000 on glossy paper. The two photos I'm trimming out for the tags, one is of Ben and Henry and the other is of me and Henry. And if I remember right, I think I had sized those to maybe 4.5 inches wide by like 8.25 or 8.5 tall. And that way I just gave myself a little bit of extra margin before I would adhere them and do the final trim for those photos. So I have the ones for the tags still left to be done, but what I'm doing right now is pulling over that photo of, I guess you would say, if it's a top-down view of our car in the parking spaces, and adhering that to the backside of, what was that, story 19, the one of Henry and I. Just trying to line up the edges. And of course, there's always a little bit of excess. Sometimes that's what happens when, these are homemade, and maybe you guys have that too. Grabbing over a metal ruler and craft knife and just cutting off those portions. I'm cut into my table. You can see it's completely trashed. Maybe eventually I will switch. I don't know if I had said that before. I'm considering a butcher block, but we'll see what happens in the new year. Again, just being a little finicky with some of those. I use a ruler and craft knife right now because I can never seem to cut straight. Maybe you guys have that same thing. Using my 6-hole punch to punch the holes, cleaning off my mess of the desk. Does anybody else have that where their craft room looks like a complete disaster right now? It's like December daily has completely taken over. And I think I even at one point stopped filming to clean up my desk, and then I came back to it. I felt like I had too much out and I couldn't even think straight. Sorry, my head's getting in the way here a little bit. Just adhering that photo of myself and Henry, and I will do the same for that photo of Ben and Henry, to the backside of those tags. It's a really fun way to bring in another voice, especially since I'm having Ben fill one out, and have the photo of him, even though I also have his voice included again because he wrote the story for 22 about work. Grabbing over that We Are Memory Keepers punch as well to punch a hole in. I had already had one punched, but just finishing that off there. I really like how all these pages flow. And if you guys were part of, I think it was prep day, that's where Allie had made a felt pocket that went the full length, or almost the full length of the album. So like a 10, almost 11 inches wide, because I don't have, 7 people, all that many people in my house. I just made it shorter, and I can't remember what size that is. I think it's maybe like 5 inches or 4 inches, and that worked out perfect for me. So just kind of, you can take an idea and make it work for you. Here I'm grabbing over 3 of those rubber tags and just then I also have my journaling, which I also trimmed down. I used Photoshop to add my journaling, and I use that existing digital file of those rubber tags to then create, an outline and then add my text. Part of my text was just talking about, or my words talking about us doing drive up, or how we've been doing that far more often for our pickup orders from Target, or else some days we do delivery. And then on the other one, I wrote what was actually on the list. So what we had picked up and put the prices next to it. Thought that might be interesting, to see years to come. I know it's vastly different even from a couple years ago, especially the rise and the cost of everything and the inflation. So what I am doing right now is adding some gold star brads just to give it a little something. And then I'm putting foam adhesive dots on my journaling. I will say I liked the lift of that, but I wish I had like a little bit thinner, so not as much of a dimension of those foam squares. If you guys know of anything, be sure to let me know in the comments below. It just felt like it was just a pinch too much, and sometimes I like that dimension, but I don't want all the dimension, if that makes sense. And especially considering how thick this album is. Putting that score tape on the back of those rubber tags. One thing I really love about score tape more than red line tape is how easy this is to tear, not only tear, but it's also super easy to peel that backing off of it. Here I'm going to be playing around with different sets of numbers. I first have those red felt ones that have adhesive on the back, and I don't have a source for that. I'm very sorry. Might be something you could do with whatever cutting machine you have to emulate that. I found those at a store, maybe it was like a dollar store or something like that, a couple years ago. Same thing with the alphabets I used earlier on story 6. Those, what would you call that? It's like red foil numbers. Those are from, I think it was my Mind's Eye, that's several years ago. I liked the size of them. I liked how big they were, but it just felt like a lot of red. And even that 20, it felt like a lot of red. And I considered that gold chipboard number 20, but it wasn't big enough for me. So next here in the process, I'm going to adhere those numbers down, the 20, and grabbing over one of those canvas word phrase strips that said making a list. And I trimmed that down just a little bit. You can see again here, I'm grabbing a ruler to try to line that up as straight as I could, but things happen. I don't know if you guys ever had that you can't get everything quite straight sometimes. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Sometimes I can, and other times, I have to peel stuff off and start again. And oh man, that's frustrating, especially when you have to reprint a photo. I'm trying right now, and I forgot to cut this out. Sorry about that, guys. But I put red line tape on the back of the canvas word phrase strip. And this is again what I was talking about as far as sometimes it can be super hard to get that off. So I used my craft pick and just tried to, puncture that tape to get it to peel easier. One thing I would say is, I don't know if anybody else can relate to this. My album has laid flat open this entire time while I've been working on it. And the other day I went to close it. This was even maybe halfway. So maybe several days ago, maybe 13 or 14. And I realized, oops, this is super thick. My very first December daily 2019, I went into 2 albums, but since then I have tried to keep it just down to 1. Some people end up with 1 album, some people end up with 3. I think it just depends on if you want to use all the things, add all the things, you guys do you. For me personally, I am liking having it in just 1 album, but looking at the bulk, that has definitely kind of been a deciding factor for how I'm trying to finish up the rest of my album. Underneath that canvas word phrase, I was trying to play around with some of those glitter chipboard stars. or cardstock stars, and I was playing with different sizes. Looking at this now, I really liked that silver one. I ended up using a small chipboard gold star. You can see it right there, and just put that right on. I might go back and put that silver one on instead. I will say I do like the fact that it's gold repeated with the embellishment or with that star brad I have below, but it just felt like it needed a little pop, a little something extra. So that is it for my story 20. Now I'll be finishing out story 21, which are those would you rather tags. I am going to fill it out for myself, and then I will have Ben do his later. So before I started writing, I was like, I better double check which side I'm on and hope I was right. So just circling that, just using a regular pen. It's not archival, I don't believe, but I'm completely okay with that. It's pretty fun to at least see, or really think about would I rather, have one big gift or lots of small gifts, or just, to sit and pause and reflect on that as I filled that out. Here I'm going to add in some ribbon from my stash. That red one is a few years old, but I believe I found that red one at World Market. They might have something similar again. If I can find it, I'll link it for you guys below. And then for the other tag, the one that had the Santa paper at the top, I'll be using a red and white ribbon. That one I know I got from TJ Maxx many years ago, and I'm nearing the very end of it, but I love that one. You might be able to find similar on Amazon, and I think May Arts has something similar too. So just trying to finish that up, get the tags in. I couldn't find it for a minute because, again, my desk is just, you see all the things, right? So I'm loving, though, this album. I'm loving this season. I will say it's been great for me personally working on this every day or every couple of days. And I like that I won't have this lingering into next year. But that is my choice, and that has really been what has worked for me. I know for some people, they work on this project towards, the following year or in the middle of the summer or whenever they have time. And, that's completely, I don't know, it's completely okay, of however your choice to document or work on this. I really like being able to close my album and that feeling of being able to move on. I will say, for just a little bit of an example, because I did stories 20, 21, and 22, how the time I personally had ended up spending between editing the photos and my words and thinking ahead to the embellishments, and then the filming altogether, that was probably about an hour and a half. And again, I know that for some people, an hour and a half is a lot of time. That just is how I've chosen, or how I've worked or been able to work a little bit with my schedule. So here I am finishing up, or I've moved on to my story 22. Again, this is my husband. I asked him to write the words. Over the past few years, I have included a story of him working. In my 2019, it was 4x6 inserts. He took a photo every day and added some words in. And then, same thing, 2020, I took a photo of him working. He did the words, and last year. And I really love that it's been a repeated story year over year, and inviting him to write a few words about what is going on with his job and his role and what work's like, or working from home. You could see I was fiddling around with that bah humbug. I kept going back and forth and debating, do I want a subheader? Do I want to use that vellum strip or vellum sentiment in the center? Do I want to add one at all? Debating on the colors. Across these three stories, it's a lot of red. So I thought maybe something else to balance that out. And that is why I went with that cream colored one. Just put some red line tape again on the back side and adhered that. And then to finish off that bah humbug, I'm using that Barely Arts glue with a fine tip and just putting some on the back. This glue is just, I absolutely love it. It has become my new favorite go-to. Highly recommend if you haven't tried. It's also great for those see-through embellishments or even like your felt pockets or things like that. I had a little bit of glue on top of that word, but I just used a microfiber cloth and it came off super easily. Really love how these pages turned out, and a huge thank you for everybody who has been here and watched and commented. I've really enjoyed my time with you guys this season.
All right, everybody, that is a wrap for stories 20 through 22. Again, just using some of those rubber tags that were an add-on in my journaling. I like how this one came out. It's not, I wish I had, and I think I already said this, some large gold numbers that were like these ones, but, you know, and I could have cut that out with my silhouette, but just trying to use what I have here. I do like that it's felt, so it ties in over here. A couple of tags. Ben needs to fill his out. You know, us with Henry, I love that he's included in this too. And then a story my husband wrote about working, and you know, that was a great way to bring in that big title. So that is a wrap. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them down below, and all my supplies are listed. That is it. I will not be back for any more layouts or process videos for the rest of my December daily. What I will most likely do instead is a final walkthrough. So if you guys, again, have any questions about anything in my album, I can answer that in a walkthrough. Till next time, which will probably be in the new year. I hope that you guys have a wonderful Christmas and a happy new year. Take care.